This short video will prepare you for section 7.2, which helps you determine whether something is a function. So in general, a relation could be represented in different ways. Three typical ways of representing them are tables, equations, and graphs. This video will go through how to look at one of those representations and determine if the relation is indeed a function. So let's start by considering tables. So typically the variables we'll use will be x and y, and suppose you know that a certain relation when x is 3, y is 5, when x is 4, y is 7, and I'll just continue with the same pattern. So 8, 9, and 10. Something went wrong here. I see where it is. Let's back up. So 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then let's go 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. So you look at this and you want to know if it's a function. Well, remember, the key to a function is that each input or x value has only one output or y value. Okay, so that's what we need to think of. 3 is an input. It has the output of 5. And if you look at this chart, you'll notice that each input has only one output. So we would say, yes, this chart represents a function. All right, let's look at another one, and maybe instead of x and y, I'll put input and output. So suppose we'll take the same inputs, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And let's just say this relation, if the input is odd, the output is 1. Whereas if the input is even, the output is 2. So here the input is odd, so the output will be 1. This input is even, so the output will be 2. And so on. Alright, now you look at this one and you notice that 3 goes to 1, 5 goes to 1, and 7 goes to 1, and you might think that's a problem. But read up here carefully. Each input has only one output. So the fact that 3, 5, and 7 have the same output doesn't create a problem. It's still a function. There isn't an input with more than one output. There's an output with more than one input, but that's not the same thing. So then let's consider this. Suppose you have the following function. Suppose 3 maps to 5. Let's suppose 4 maps to 7. And then let's suppose 3 maps to 9, 4 maps to 11, and 3 maps to 13. Okay, this one, notice your input of 3. Alright, let's look at this in red. 3 is here, here, and here. And it's the same input, but it's got 1, 2, 3 different outputs. So that is not a function. And in general, if you're looking at a table and you want to know if it represents a function, you look for repeats in your input column. If you have any number repeated in your input column and next to it is a different output, then it's not a function. Again, notice how that's different from the second chart, where the repeated values are in the second column or the output column. That doesn't create a problem. It's still a function. Okay, for now I'm going to skip looking at equations to determine if they are functions. That's something I'd rather explain in person. But let's look at two different graphs. Alright, okay, I'm still using red. So here's one graph, and I'll put arrows. A lot of graphs keep going. And then I'm going to look at another graph that goes like, say, that. Alright, well, again, the key to deciding if something is a function is that each input, or x value, can only have one y value. So let's look at the one on the right first and consider this x value right here. Okay, negative 1, 2, 3. There's more than one y value on this graph associated with that x value. And in fact, anytime you can draw a vertical line that crosses the graph more than once, it's not a function. That's called the vertical line test, and it shows that a given output has, in this case, 1, 2, 3 outputs. The same input, 1 to negative 3, is mapped to positive 2. Negative 3 also appears to be mapped to negative 1. And negative 3 as an input also is mapped to 1 to negative 3. And again, you've got a repeat in your input or x column, so that is not a function. This other one over here, you can draw a vertical line wherever you want. It's never going to cross that graph. One vertical line will never cross that graph more than once. Oops, sorry about that. So that means that that one is indeed a function. So let me write yes, that is a function. It passes the vertical line test. Okay, for your homework, number 1 and 2 are tables. So determine if they represent functions. Number 3 is this red graph, and number 4 is the blue one. If it's not a function, please explain why. Have that ready for class next time.